Hey everybody, I wanted to send a quick video to walk through the final paper assignment with you so that you can go ahead and get started in your planning. So I'm going to share my screen here for you. All of this is available on Canvas so that you can find it. Sorry, one second. Here we go. Okay, great. And I apologize, but I'm going to have to look this way at times because I haven't figured out how to do two screens here, figure it all out together. So again, feel free to continue to send questions my way if you have more questions after I explain today. Happy to continue to talk through it with you. So again, this is all available on Canvas, week 10. So if you go down to the final paper case studies, final paper, 2,500 to 3,000 words. So it's a summative assignment. So again, it's pulling together a lot of what you've been reading and learning and discussing for the quarter that will be integrated into this final paper. So summative assignment, which means that it will require you to demonstrate your ability to integrate the psychological content you have encountered in this course into a constructive theological account. The focus of the final paper will be a case study, and some of you maybe have done a lot of case studies in your vocations or in your job placements. Maybe this is new to others of you. It's really not a scary thing. A case study is really helps you focus in on a particular situation, a particular thing that happened, perhaps in your ministry or your church or your organization. That's going to be the focus of what you look at in this paper. And then you're going to apply topics from the course into that particular scenario. So that's basically what a case study looks like. And you give specifics so that I can understand what the case study is about. So case study of your choosing, drawn from your personal experience. Okay, so two parts to this paper. I want to make sure we talk about this. Final papers should include, number one, identify the ways in which a particular psychological construct covered in this class, such as embodied cognition, mindfulness, family systems, trauma-informed care, etc., might help you articulate and understand your vocational goals and purpose. So depending on, this may be very specific for some of you if you have particular vocational goals. It could be more broad for others of you who are perhaps in the beginning of your program and are not quite sure what your vocational goals are. But whatever it is, what particular one or two perhaps issues or constructs that you've learned now give you language in this to help you understand a little bit more about where God might be calling you, your vocational goals, perhaps career goals. Does it help you narrow down your vocation? These are things I do want to do. These are things I definitely don't want to do. Does it give you more interest to move into other areas? Maybe it broadens things for you where you had thought about something one way and now for your vocation you're thinking about something a different way because of the constructs that you've received. Some students have asked, how specific and deep does this need to be, this number one, versus how broad? And, I would say it's going to differ for every person, but I would encourage you to stay on just a few subjects, a few topics, and go somewhat deep with them rather than name 20 constructs that really won't allow you to go very deep in this section. So really hoping that you can integrate both thinking about vocational goals, God's calling, and how it connects to some of these pieces that you've picked up in this course. So that's the first question, number one, first part. Number two, describe a concrete scenario. So this is the case study part. Concrete scenario from your life or ministry experience that did not lead to thriving, whether for you, others involved, or the broader community. And consider how a psychologically informed approach might enable you to respond differently in the future. In other words, after having completed this class, what do you now know that perhaps you had not considered then? And how will that matter in terms of how you lead others towards being and becoming who God created them to be in the future? So, does not lead to thriving. Now, this doesn't have to be a miserable experience, something that went terribly wrong. But if you think about some of the pieces that we're starting to learn about optimal growth and development and thriving, you could think about like, okay, these things went fine, but they could have gone better. Or maybe they went okay, but now I better understand such that if I were to do this scenario again, here's how I would do it differently. Or maybe it actually was a scenario that didn't go well, and that's fine too. So taking concepts from this class and relating them to a particular goal or purpose or vocation, first part. Second part, taking concepts from this class and applying them to a case study that's out of your personal life. Now, some people have asked in terms of number one and number two, does it need to be 50% of the paper and 50% of the paper? It can look very different across papers as long as you're addressing both of the subjects. So it could be that 1/3 of your paper is on vocation and 2/3 of your paper is on the case study or vice versa. I'm not as worried about that. Is make sure you cover the prompts fully, and kind of what seems to be important for you is what I want you to write in this paper, but don't skimp on both parts. And finally, this is 35% of your grade, and the paper is due 11:59 p.m. June 10th. That's the Friday of finals week at 11:59. I'll put that twice. So, and you'll notice, I'll go through a few more questions here, but if you'll notice down, as you go down, there is a template that you can look at that helps you see, okay, this is the way that I'll get graded on your content and critical thinking, understanding of the topics, your research and citations, and then your writing and communication. So I'll compacted this here. I've still not yet mastered how to do this quickly. There we go. Okay. Now. Okay, here we go. Good. Okay, and the second piece I wanted to say here is that I'm going to also send to you in an email and then post it in week 10 a sample paper that you can look through. Now, this sample paper was one of the better ones from last quarter, but I have to say it's not perfect. It's not an ideal paper in terms of you'll find some grammatical errors. Some of the things don't quite, they're not quite logical or don't quite make sense. However, what I did want you to see is that it's a good paper because it does a few things. You can tell in the first paragraph that this person explains the scenario. It's about manuscript Bible study. And the person doesn't assume that I know what manuscript Bible study is, so they explain it to me. Now, I do. It's kind of the bread and butter of InterVarsity. But it was great to see, like, okay, he's going to assume that I don't know what that is and help me understand it. That's a great way to go about framing your scenario. So you'll notice in this paper that the person did particular citations with footnotes. I don't really mind what particular citation system you use. It could be Turabian, Chicago, MLA, APA. There's lots of different systems. I would just ask that you keep it consistent no matter what you do. So yeah, if you look at the paper, the way that it's organized, and I encourage you all, I write with an outline. That might not be the way you like to create final papers, but I like to think through what organizationally, what do I like to do? So for this person, they said from, introduction to the scenario, and then what particular psychological topic. He talked about trauma-informed care that he was going to use, he or she, I'm not sure. And then here is how this particular topic is impacting this scenario. And then here is how it impacts my vocation is the final part of the paper. So that's just in a basic general flow. That's great. If you want to start with your vocational piece and then move into the scenario, that's fine too. I'm not very specific on that. Again, just want to make sure you cover all the areas. So before I end, just a couple more questions that I've received. Other research. You don't need to do any other outside research. The research that you can cite for this paper can be the readings and the videos that you've looked at from this course. Now, if you do cite something that's outside of what we've done in this course, please do cite it. I want to make sure that, again, you're kind of following the ways we think about citations and making sure that people get the credit that they're due. But in terms of do I need to go outside of what I've already read and watched? No, it's fine for this class what you've done. Again, be consistent with your citations. I know sometimes these videos can be a little hard to cite. I'm not too worried about it. I don't need you to be flawless. Just make it clear what you're citing. If perhaps there's a particular video that you can't find a date for, it could be Pam King, Fuller Studio videos. Give the link. Just as long as I know that you're citing the source and I can tell how to get there, and you're consistent, look up if you're using Chicago or Turabian, APA, MLA, just to see how they cite videos and do your best. So one thing I did want to kind of point out, this isn't something you need to use in this particular paper, but just as a FYI for grad school, one of the systems that you can use is called Zotero, Zotero. I have no buy-in in Zotero. I have no stock in it, I promise. But it was a helpful system for me. It's free. I used it when I was writing my dissertation. And it's a helpful reference software guide, so it can help you. It integrates into your Chrome browser, so perhaps you can go and search Google Scholar. You want to cite something. Zotero allows you to download your citations and bring it into your Word document. And then it also keeps a bank and keeps all of your citations in a particular bank so you can go back to it later. If you pay for it, you can also get the download of the article, but there's no need to pay. So no need to use that here for this particular paper, but just as an FYI for grad students, I think Zotero, again, Zotero, can be pretty helpful. Somebody asked, could I use first person I in this paper? Absolutely. This is a case study paper. And generally in some papers you would want to be careful about using I, but for this it certainly makes sense that you could use I to both talk about your vocation and to talk about your case study. So no worries on that. Remember that Fuller has a writing center, and I'm going to make sure I put a link in the email for you to look that up. The writing center has a lot of great resources on its website, a lot of the different citation guides you can use, a lot of ways just to think about writing, to be careful about plagiarism, and you can actually also schedule an appointment with the writing center. So be aware of that and check that out if you can. How deep do you need to go into describing your scenario? Provide enough detail that I can come up to speed with the scenario that you're talking about. So please don't include any identifying information about the people in the scenario, except of course yourself, or nothing that's confidential. You don't need to include that. But for instance, you could say, I was preaching once and I realized I needed to think about embodiment more. Well, what were you preaching on and why was that important? And who was your audience? And what disconnection happened there? So those are the kind of details that would help just bring me up to speed on your case study. So those are the particular questions that I've had so far. There's probably more out there. Please feel free to email me if you have questions, and I may do another one of these videos to answer more questions if they come up. Also, if you'd like to just run your idea by me or kind of think through with me how to conceptualize your case study or how you're thinking about your vocation, please feel free to connect with me as well. Happy to help. Okay, hope this helps. Take care, guys.